let's talk to Steve, who's been on the line for well over an hour. Pronoun see
Ooh.
him, calling in all the way from magical upside down land of Australia.
Ooh.
Who would like to discuss how we evaluate competing hypotheses for the existence of self, why the God hypothesis deserves consideration alongside naturalistic explanations when examining fundamental questions about reality. That's everything that's written in there. Sounds neat.
Okay.
Steve, you're on the
Let's
line
go.
with Forrest and Durante. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing quite well. Yourself?
I'm doing all right.
Doing wonderful.
Doing all right.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. So yeah, you've read out there what I was wanting to talk about. So yeah, I guess like when I think about all of the possible sort of, I guess, hypotheses for explaining existence, like there's really only like a handful of categories. Like there's like cyclic models, there's random, spontaneous emergence, and then there's the designer hypothesis. And I guess there's simulation theory as well, but that's kind of like on another dimension of explaining things. But and then there's of course there's just like we just have no idea. But there's not really that too many major like different categories of these explanatory hypotheses. And I feel like that the design one is just often written off way too like just dismissed way too easily in a lot of cases. Whereas like I'd hear like a atheist, for example, happily jump into an explanation of the multiverse theory to explain the fine-tuning argument and that sort of thing. And like I don't see why that is any better than having a description appealing to a designer. And the reason I say this is because, first of all, we have examples in our reality of intelligence that has an emerged property, and we observe that in ourselves. So there's no example closer to home, really, that we see that intelligence can exist. And so to totally write that off as, oh, no, that's supernatural, having an intelligent designer, for me, that just sounds pretty crazy just to write that off so easily.
I think the big thing for me is that like it's not that I'm writing off any kind of intelligent design or something like that. I have no good reason to assume to write it on to believe that that's a possibility. So when we talk about things like, you know, the Big Bang, for example, and you ask what's before the Big Bang, I don't have any answers for you. I've got nothing. I got a big bag of I don't know. And there are some physicists and cosmologists and shit out there that do know a lot of stuff about that, way more than I possibly could as a biologist. I don't know anything about that shit. And they're like, well, here's some options. Here's this multiverse idea. And here's this, you know, the universe has always existed in some way idea. And here's this quantum fluctuation, whatever the hell idea. And like, they are paid a lot of money to study those things. And they're saying those words. And I'm like, neat. I don't know about that stuff, but I trust the education of the people who do say those things. And I know how science works enough to understand that they're not just saying that shit for fun. So like, maybe there's something there. I've yet to hear any actual evidence be brought forth for any kind of a designer, any kind of intelligence, any kind of God, any kind of being outside of space and time, or even the existence of whatever could be outside of space and time. I've yet to hear any actual reason to believe any of those things exist. And so I'm not going to count them as an equally possible hypothesis or even give them really any consideration at all, any more than I would. You said the simulation theory is just this kind of other thing. Like, well, fuck, man, there's exactly as much evidence and exactly as much falsifiability behind the simulation hypothesis as there is about the God hypothesis, which is none and none. There's no evidence and there's no way to falsify it. So should I sit here and consider it seriously, or should I only consider things that I have a good reason to believe in? And so that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's like, it's not that I'm just out of hand saying, all right, I know for sure there's no God. It's that anytime somebody presents a God argument, the best they can possibly do is to try to dismiss evidence. They can try to dismiss positive evidence for other explanations. There has yet to be any positive evidence for their explanation. They have no evidence supporting this idea of God, but they try to make bad arguments to dismiss the Big Bang or whatever else. And I'm sorry, X equals 0 is not the same thing as Y equals 1. Even if we throw out the Big Bang, even if we throw out evolution, if we throw out everything, and we know absolutely nothing besides the fact that I am here and it appears that the universe is as well. If that's all I've got to go off of, I still have no reason to believe in
God. Okay, but I guess like what I'm kind of getting to is that at least agnostic is the correct position, and I think that a lot of these people take on the atheist position of there is no God. To me, that's irrational because it's a valid hypothesis. It's like looking at a set of hypotheses and discarding
hold up. Steve. Forrest literally just defined how it was not a valid hypothesis. Mm-hmm. It's not a valid hypothesis. And then you just came back and said, well, it is a valid hypothesis, which demonstrates you're not actually listening, right?
I also want to point out, I'm not saying there definitely is no God either. I thought I made that clear, but just in case I didn't, I'm saying I have no good reason to believe there is such a thing as a God. And so I'm just living my life as if there isn't, and it hasn't failed me yet. I'm not saying for sure there isn't, because I would need evidence for that claim as well. But there's no reason to believe in a God, and there's no backing for that hypothesis. There's no reason to consider that hypothesis. It's not sound. It's not valid. It's not helpful.
Well, this is the hypothesis that I'm talking about, is that something resembling intelligence set up the conditions for the beginning of the universe. And that explains the fine-tuning problem.
It does not.
And
so does the simulation theory.
Yes, exactly.
Saying that we're all in a computer simulation also explains the fine-tuning problem you're presenting. Do you give the idea that we could all be in a video game with VR headsets that we forgot that we're wearing? Do you give that as much consideration and take that as seriously as your claims about God?
Yes.
Okay, well then you're more honest than most theists we talk to about this. But I still say, at the end of the day, I would still say I also give the idea that we're all in a video game as much consideration and take it as seriously as I do the idea about God, which is not at all, because there's no evidence and it's unfalsifiable.
Yep.
Yeah, but we can never. It's unfalsifiable. Correct. It's unfalsifiable. That's the problem we have with this issue of trying to explain existence, because science can only go so far. We can never explain.
I think you might have a misunderstanding of what unfalsifiable means in this context. It doesn't mean that it's always not going to be true. It means that for this specific claim, there's no way to demonstrate whether it's true or not. That's not specific to just God claims. There are several claims that are unfalsifiable. Typically, most claims based in bullshit end up being unfalsifiable. That's kind of a staple of that.
Yeah, here's what I was saying. That science, when we're trying to explain this particular issue, we can't use science because science can't test things beyond our reality.
So what are you using?
What is the evidence that there is anything beyond our reality to test?
Wait a minute, I haven't said anything about that yet. I'm only talking about what are the options.
You literally just said that.
You just said science can't test anything beyond our reality. What leads you to believe that there is anything beyond our reality which could be tested?
I don't think that.
Then what's the problem?
All I'm saying is that So you said before that it's not a hypothesis. How do you describe what a hypothesis is?
Hypothesis is it's a guess. It's a question. Yeah, it's an idea. It's an explanation, a proposed explanation for observed phenomena, backed by some kind of like serious grounding, some sort of education, some sort of background in that area that allows you to say, okay, this could be the cause of that. This could be connected to that, whatever it is. And then the idea is you need to be able to demonstrate that that is something worth testing. A hypothesis needs to be falsifiable in order for it to be worth considering. And if it's not, then it isn't. If I'm doing a science experiment and I'm trying to figure out, pick your favorite thing. There's a crater on the moon that showed up, and I want to figure out what's going on. And there's a couple hypotheses. One of them is there was a meteor impact there, and the other hypothesis is it was motherfucking fairies. They showed up on the moon and they dug a big old hole. Okay, I can test the meteor thing. I can go there and look at what's on the ground. I can watch the tape. We're recording the moon all the time. I can watch that. Whatever. How the fuck do I test the fairy thing? You know what I mean? It's not falsifiable, so I can't. It's not a good hypothesis. And especially if I have good evidence for a naturalistic explanation, a supernatural explanation may be more explanatory. The explanation of God controlling everything and designing everything, that's the most explanatory hypothesis possible. This motherfucker did it. That's the explanation for every question in the universe. This guy did it. We got it. We've solved the grand theory of everything. But if it can't be tested in any way, and we actually have good evidence going in the other direction, you can come back and say, yeah, well, God set the universe up to look this way to make it look natural. Or evolution is just God's control over how species change. Or, yeah, the Big Bang was God farting, and that's what we're seeing. That's what happened. Whatever you want to do, you can post hoc rationalize it. But at the end of the day, you have the same problem. It's unfalsifiable, and there's no good evidence for it. So why the fuck do you believe it? There's no reason to.
Right, but if you had a one fairy captured in a jar, and it's like, wow, we found a fairy, and
then we'd have something to talk about.
Like,
okay.
So
then we'd have something to talk about. Do you have a God in a jar that we can talk about?
I would love to see God in a jar, man. Y'all wait on the segue.
My scenario, the jar is what I present.
One jar.
I don't know what's funny about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you may not be in the same horrible internet that we're in, but One Guy, One Jar is an old internet video of a guy sticking a jar up his ass and it breaks and there's blood and it's horrible. And so that's what I'm laughing at now. One God, One Jar. It's a bad time.
Oh,
Thank you for making me explain that. I'm so sorry to everyone listening.
That was the Big Bang right there.
That was definitely in a different corner of the internet than you then.
Oh, God.
I guess in my example, that would be what I presented at the very beginning. Okay, so we observe that intelligence exists, okay, because we see that in our reality. So all I'm saying is that if it exists here, there's absolutely no reason to say it cannot exist there, because that sounds ridiculous.
Where is there? Where is there?
Well, when I say there, the problem is when we're talking about anything outside of our reality, we don't have really the words to describe stuff. But I'm just saying,
because we don't have any evidence that there is anything outside of our reality. You're literally just making stuff up. You're assuming something exists. And this is often the problem with belief and study. You know, like if you believe, you literally are. What is the evidence that there is something outside of reality?
Bro, I'm not assuming that. Why are you assuming
okay, so what is your
that?
That's literally why I just asked you the question, Steve. What is your evidence that there is something outside of reality?
It's not an assumption that there is something there.
Sir, answer the question. What is your evidence that there is something outside of reality?
There is no evidence. We don't have evidence. We don't have evidence.
So that's why I say it's an assumption, because you don't have any evidence. This is a speculation at this moment.
It would be an assumption if I assumed there was something out beyond existence.
But here's the thing that we're hung up on, man, is that like you're saying if you're hush or phrases. I'm trying not to straw man what you're saying, but like what I'm getting from you is maybe in this other dimension outside of reality, the rules are different and things work differently. And we're like, is there such a thing as this other dimension? And you're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, neither do I. So why do we care? Why are we talking? Why are we discussing it? Like we have every single process, every single thing we have ever studied in the entire universe is natural and has a naturalistic explanation and a naturalistic mechanism. So like we've got it. We have no reason to assume anything else. And if we have evidence, if we get a fairy in a jar, we'll change our minds and we'll ask different questions. But until that point, there's no reason to even entertain the idea. And what you're doing, I understand you're not asserting that there is this other dimension or that there is this other God or that there is any, I understand that, but you are doing the hard work of trying to figure out, well, what's this guy like? And what's it like in this reality? And you're doing all this hard work and heavy lifting of trying to figure out the rules of a universe that you don't know exists and you don't even have any reason to believe exists. So like that's what we're hung up on.
Raw man, when have I asserted anything about the nature of them?
You didn't. What you're saying, I didn't say you did. What you're saying here is that like in this place outside of reality, the rules might be different. Okay, if gnomes exist, they might floss their teeth with cotton candy. That's not worth discussing. It's not worth having a conversation about because we don't know that gnomes exist. So like the first question should be, does this extra reality plane exist in the first place? Then what is it like there? And there's no reason to waste any brain power at all thinking about what it might be like in this other place. And there's no reason for me to consider that as an explanation if I don't have a reason to believe that it exists in the first place. I certainly don't have a reason to believe that some guy lives there. So like there's no reason for me to think about like, oh, well, maybe God did this and that. And what are the implications? Maybe I should really consider this creation thing. If I have no reason to believe any of this stuff exists in the first place, why the hell would I care about how it works?
All I'm really saying is that completely writing off that existence could potentially be explained by something that resembles intelligence, some sort of force that resembles intelligence, had a hand in playing. Writing that off, and I say resembles intelligence because that's the only trait we can use to explain certain things like the fine-tuning argument and that sort of thing. But I think writing that off completely is intellectually dishonest.
Well, that sounds like a personal problem. Because Forrest did highlight at the beginning that it's not being written off. There's no reason that supports it. You know, it's like you're saying, I want people to believe this because I believe it. But like, and this is what Forrest opened this conversation with. There's no information that sustains this. Your argument is like almost everybody else's argument for this. It's simply based on incredulity, that I can't believe that this world could exist without a designer. Fine, that is a personal problem. But for you to then say other people should believe what I believe just because I believe it, even though I don't care enough about it to actually research it, to actually study this thing out, I'm just going to believe it say that's the case. Yeah. I'm just demonstrating what you've demonstrated. I'm identifying what you've demonstrated in this conversation. When you open your mouth, you reveal what you've learned. When you speak, you reveal what you know and what you actually don't know. And so you have demonstrated that you've said several times, I don't have any evidence. I just think this. This is your speculation. That's all it is. And to say, well, that should hold equal weight with people who are actually out there doing the research, that's incredibly childish.
So you don't think that it's... So you've got people out there, it's a difficult thing to be like, quote unquote, researching. Like we just may not be able to even... What do you mean, why?
This just sounds like the invisible dragon in my garage argument. I have a dragon in my garage, but he's invisible. Well, put some dust on the ground and let's see if we can see his footprints. Well, he's floating. It's not complex because it's complex. It's complex because there's no reason for it in the first place. So everybody who's commenting on it is just making shit up.
See, that's the thing, is like, we're not, you're presenting this thing you keep saying over and over, that like we shouldn't write off this concept of a creator, of something resembling intelligence. I'm sorry, that's not how thinking works in a scientific sense. You need a reason to write something in. You need a reason to assume something in the first place, or to even give something the time of day. The reason why I don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster is the same reason I don't believe in any intelligent designer. It's not because it's so silly and ridiculous and it could never possibly be. It's because there's no reason to believe that exists, so I don't. If I have a Christmas present in the morning, if I come out to my living room on Christmas Day and I have a Christmas present there, and I know that I didn't buy it, that's no reason to believe in Santa Claus. That just because, hey, I'm considering all the options, right? No, I would need to believe that a Santa Claus existed first, and then I can factor in, okay, did my wife get this? Did my friend get this? Or did Santa Claus get this? And if I have no reason to believe in Santa Claus, and I'm still saying, did my wife get this? Or did Santa Claus get this? Then I'm just wasting my own time by thinking about a hypothesis that makes no fucking sense, and that I have no reason to test in the first place, and couldn't test even if I wanted to.
I agree with what you're saying. Like, for example, a flying spaghetti monster, there is no explanatory power behind that. It's just an assertion of some random
The flying
monster.
spaghetti monster made everything. His noodly appendage created the world. I'm wearing him on my shirt at this moment.
There's no explanatory power. Because why does it have to be made of spaghetti?
Why did God have to be made of whatever the fuck God's made of?
I didn't say what he's made of.
I didn't say what the flying spaghetti monster's made of. Maybe he just looks like spaghetti, but it isn't actually spaghetti. Maybe it is actually spaghetti because that's the form that he chose to take.
But what does that attribute explain?
The attribute doesn't explain jack shit besides what it looks like.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying he made everything. And the attributes of God, any attributes of God don't explain anything about God besides what God is. At the end of the day, the same argument. Here's this thing that exists outside of reality that has magical powers that we don't understand that made everything. And you can change it out for God or a flying spaghetti monster or any of the other gods that you don't believe in. I'm not straw manning. I'm repeating.
You're straw manning. I'm talking about
what exactly.
He knows the word straw man. Steve learned a word.
What exactly did I just say that was a straw man?
Well, because I've only mentioned one explanatory property, which is something that resembles intelligence.
Right. He's intelligent. He resembles intelligence, and he created stuff. That's all we've got.
That's the only property.
Right. So if I add any other properties to that, yes, it is, Steve. Because if I add any other properties to that, it resembles
no explanatory power.
Steve, I am in the middle of explaining to you why you are wrong. I would appreciate if you'd let me finish. I am not strawmanning you because what you've given me here is that it resembles intelligence and it created things. Those are the two things that this God or whatever the fuck has. At that point, that is the entire explanation. It's intelligent or resembles intelligence at least, and it made the things. Everything else that you add onto that is redundant. What does he look like? How tall is he? What does he like? Ska? Like anything else you say about this God.
I told you, and I said initially that I'm not talking about nature. There's only one thing I'm talking about.
I just said that you didn't say that. I literally just said that you can add these concepts on and it changes nothing. I didn't say you say that.
Okay,
I am not straw manning you.
Okay, fair enough. I thought you were saying
gravy.
You do this.
What I am trying to get across to you is that if you add any attributes, it doesn't matter. And similarly, if I'm talking about a Christmas present and I say, Steve, shut the fuck up. If I'm talking about a Christmas present and I say, I don't know where this present came from, so maybe it's Santa Claus, all I have to say is it's some creature with something resembling intelligence that can produce Christmas presents and deliver them. It could be Santa Claus. It could be Nikolaus. It could be some other deity. It could be a flying spaghetti Christmas demon. It could be whatever the fuck it wants. It doesn't matter. The same assertion has been made. Something with something resembling intelligence did a thing that could easily be explained by natural processes. I have no reason to believe in the supernatural thing. I have every reason to believe in the natural thing. Therefore, it makes no sense to waste any intellectual time considering the possibility of the flying spaghetti Christmas demon or God or Krishna or whatever the fuck else. It makes no difference to think about the simulation or maybe it's a video game or maybe it's Jesus or maybe it's Allah or maybe, because you have to first prove that those things are at the very least possible and more importantly real. Then you can start talking about how they actually do.
Is intelligence possible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, please give me an example of intelligence existing at the beginning of the universe.
Why does it need to be an example of that? I'm just giving an example that intelligence exists.
Yes. So does a Honda Civic. Do you think that there was a Honda Civic at the time of the Big Bang, Steve?
Well, what's the explanatory power behind a Honda Civic being there?
I am asking you a question. The yes or no answer would be appreciated. Is there any reason to believe that there may have been a Honda Civic at the time of the Big Bang?
There is no reason to believe that.
So should I consider that as part of the explanation for the universe?
No.
Right. There is also no reason to believe that there was any intelligence at the beginning of the universe. There's no reason to believe in any extraplanetary existences. There is no reason to believe in any intelligence at the beginning of the universe. There is no reason to believe in any extraplanar existence. There is no, because things that have intelligence didn't exist yet.
But there is reason to consider it.
No, there isn't.
No.
Because if you consider it, you would first need to demonstrate that it is possible. In a universe which is billions of degrees hot, in which the only things that exist are at the very, very beginning, the first things that come into existence are some hydrogen atoms. Because it's so hot that all these particles are just awash in a sea of nothingness. You're telling me there was a brain?
Well,
no.
I'm not. Do you realize how simple a one singular neuron is?
It is not simple at all.
It can be.
How? No, tell me. No, seriously, my graduate training in neuroanatomy would love to be enlightened a little bit further. Tell me how a simple neuron can exist at the Big Bang, made of nothing but hydrogen. What does that look like?
So you've heard of AI, right?
Sure.
And AI is a neural network. Do you know how programmatically a neuron works?
Oh, we're talking about computer programs, not actual neurons. So when I say intelligence, we could be talking about computers, which, by the way, also didn't exist at the Big Bang.
You need to understand how simple a neuron can be. And
how simple can a neuron be, Steve? Exactly how simple. What is the simplest neuron? Enlighten me.
Well, you have an input, then there's an activation function and an output.
So a transistor.
Well, I'm not too sure exactly how a transistor works, but
you just described it.
I think it might be a transistor.
So how many transistors existed at the beginning of the universe, Steve?
Well, you could you could even say like the accumulation of electricity above the clouds into the cloud, and then the lightning is the output. So the activation.
How many clouds existed at the Big Bang, Steve?
The point I'm making is that how it manifests, how this neuron will manifest, is not known to us. But we do know that at the most simplest form, a neuron is actually very simple structure.
No, it is not.
Yes,
as someone who actually gives a damn about this stuff, no, it is not. And here's the thing, Steve. At the end of the day, all you are continuing to say is, maybe there was a thing that I have no evidence for.
Well,
and I'm sorry, that is not worth anybody's time. I don't understand how it's worth yours.
Yeah.
Well, let's just agree to disagree then and leave it there.
Okay, great. 30 minutes.
Yep.
And we're back at, I don't think you should believe in things you don't have a reason to believe in. And you're still at, maybe Jesus. What a great conversation.
I didn't say maybe Jesus, bro. Didn't say that.
Oh, these people.
Yep.
Yikes,
we are back
bro.
here because you're not willing to... I think you're just...
Yes, we are not willing to believe stuff just because you believe it. Yes, you are absolutely correct. Just because you had a thought does not mean everybody else has to agree with it, especially when you haven't even had the sincerity to do the due diligence to actually think this stuff through, or even actually go pull some information from other people who support this idea. You literally spent 30 minutes just making another claim after another one, never actually addressing the flaws in your thinking. And so even when the flaws are called out, you just kept moving right on.
I keep addressing your issues. And
I don't even think you know what our issues are.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because you keep just repeating the same thing.
Yep.
You compared my argument to a flying spaghetti monster. That's totally...
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Because it's Absolutely the same argument.
It is the exact same argument.
I also compared your argument to Santa Claus because it's the same argument. Here's something that I don't understand. Here's a potential explanation that I have no reason to believe in. So maybe it's that. I'm sorry. That's not how thinking works, Steve.
It is not.
Okay. All right, then. No worries. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, try again next time. So far, like this has been incredibly intellectually unsatisfying, and I hope next time you have something more interesting to shove at us, because like right now, literally all I've got is I have no reason to believe this, so you should try believing it. That's what I've learned from this argument.
Okay. Well,
right, take care, Steve.
Bye, friend.
Woof. Just a rough time.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jimmy Snow. I'm the executive producer of The Line. And at night, I sneak into Matt Dillahunty's house and I trade his cereals for other cereals. He comes out and he's like, wait, these are cereals I buy, but I swear I had different cereals. Anyway, would you like to support this channel or any specific show? You can do so over on Patreon or in channel memberships. There are special tiers for special shows or for the channel at large, and it helps us expand programming as well as hopefully very soon launch it in podcast form. Now, also, if you'd like to support, you can like, you can subscribe, you can leave a comment or a super thanks, which is a special highlighted comment that you pay for. Those are fun. And, screw the algorithm, go check out something over here, I suppose. Boy, I hope I can still put those icons there, because if I can't, this is going to look really stupid. I'm going to go buy some Cocoa Puffs and switch out Matt's mini wheats now.